Get out of my son's house, you barren woman. Naomi always dreamed of being a mother. As a little girl, she spent countless hours playing with her dolls, cradling them in her arms like real babies. She would imagine their soft, tiny fingers around hers. Whenever her friends would ask her what she wanted to be when she grew up, she would smile shyly and say, "I want to be a mother." It was all she ever wanted. When Naomi was just 10 years old, she became gravely ill. What started as a simple fever turned into something much worse. Doctors came and went, prescribing medicines and treatments, but none seemed to work. Her parents were beside themselves with worry, praying day and night for their little girl's recovery. After weeks of fighting the sickness, Naomi pulled through, but not without consequences. The illness had left her with complications that the doctors said might make it impossible for her to have children. As Naomi grew older, she carried that pain in her heart like a secret. She didn't tell her friends or anyone about what the doctors had said. She just held on to that sadness, a quiet weight pressing down on her, especially when she saw other girls her age talking excitedly about their future families. When she reached her 20s, Naomi began to think that maybe love wasn't meant for her. Who would want to marry a woman who might never give them children? Naomi met Emeka on a hot afternoon. She was walking through the market, picking up a few groceries, when she accidentally bumped into him. He was tall, dark, and strong, with a kind face that seemed to radiate warmth. He smiled down at her, and for the first time in a long while, Naomi felt a flutter of hope. They struck up a conversation, which led to a friendship, and soon, something more. Emeka was everything Naomi could have ever hoped for. He loved her fiercely, with a passion that seemed to burn brighter with each passing day. When Naomi finally gathered the courage to tell him about her illness and the likelihood that she might never have children, Emeka didn't flinch. "Our love is enough," he told her, taking her hands in his. "Children or no children, I want you by my side. We will face whatever comes together." Naomi was overwhelmed with gratitude. She had never imagined that someone could love her so unconditionally. They got married in a beautiful ceremony, surrounded by friends and family. Emeka didn't mind that they might never have children. He was an only child himself, but he assured Naomi that their love would be enough to fill their lives with happiness. For a time, it was. Naomi and Emeka tried everything they could: medical treatments, prayers, and even traveling to distant lands in search of answers. But nothing worked. Though there were moments of disappointment, they always found comfort in each other. Their home was quiet, but it was full of love. However, this peaceful life was not to last. One quiet Sunday morning, as Naomi and Emeka were sitting in their living room, enjoying the silence and watching a television program, they heard a loud knock on the door. Naomi's heart jumped slightly. They weren't expecting anyone, and Emeka had mentioned nothing about visitors. When she opened the door, she was greeted by the stern face of Emeka's mother, her mother-in-law. "Mama," Naomi exclaimed with a smile, trying to mask the unease she felt. She reached out to help her mother-in-law with her bags, but the older woman pushed her aside roughly. "Give me way, you barren woman," her mother-in-law spat, her voice laced with bitterness. Naomi's heart sank. The words stung. But this was not the first time she had been reminded of her inability to have children. She forced a smile and led the woman into the house. Inside, Emeka stood up in surprise. "Mama, you didn't tell us you were coming," he said, trying to sound cheerful, but clearly taken aback by her unexpected arrival. "Do I need to speak permission to visit my own son?" his mother snapped, her eyes darting toward Naomi with thinly veiled contempt. "If you don't want me here, I will leave." "Mama, of course, you are welcome here," Emeka quickly replied, attempting to defuse the situation. "We are happy to see you." But from the moment Emeka's mother stepped into the house, Naomi knew things were about to change, and not for the better. Over the next few weeks, the tension in the house grew unbearable. Emeka's mother made her disdain for Naomi clear in every way possible. She criticized everything Naomi did, from the way she cooked to how she cleaned. But the hardest criticisms always came to the same thing: Naomi's inability to have children. "You are useless," Emeka's mother would say when they were alone in the kitchen. "What kind of woman can't give her husband a child? You have nothing to offer him." One afternoon, when Naomi got back from work, she was very hungry and decided to fix something quick for herself to eat. When she went to the kitchen, she found a bowl of jollof rice. Feeling hungry, she took a portion of it. Some few minutes later, Emeka's mother entered the room and found Naomi eating. She spoke angrily and said, "I just hope it is not my jollof rice that you are eating." She hurriedly went to the kitchen, and to her surprise, the food in the bowl had reduced. She became very furious. She took a bottle of water and poured it inside the food Naomi was eating and said, "I cannot cook for a barren woman like you to eat." The words hit Naomi like a tornado. She felt her soul leaving her body in that instant. Naomi, as always, would swallow the hurt and say nothing, trying to keep the peace. But the words ate deep into her soul. She wanted nothing more than to give Emeka the family he deserved. But no matter how hard they tried, it seemed impossible. Emeka, caught between his love for Naomi and his loyalty to his mother, became distant. He still cared for Naomi, but his mother's constant badgering started to wear him down. He didn't want to hurt Naomi, but he also didn't want to disappoint his mother, the only family he had left. Then, one fateful day, Emeka's mother arrived with a surprise: a young woman named Mide. "This is Mide," Emeka's mother announced proudly, her voice filled with excitement. "She is the woman who will give my son the children he deserves." Naomi stood frozen in shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her heart raced as she looked at Emeka, hoping, praying that he would stand up for her. But to her horror, Emeka said nothing. He looked away, avoiding her gaze. "Mama, what is the meaning of this?" Naomi finally managed to choke out, her voice trembling. "It means," Emeka's mother said coldly, "that it's time for you to leave. You have wasted enough of my son's time. Mide will give him the children you never could." Naomi responded, "But, Mama, children come from God, and I believe with time I will have my own." The woman interrupted and said, "Stop talking rubbish. Even if we give you eternity, you will still not be able to bear children for my son." Naomi felt as though the ground had been pulled out from under her. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked to Emeka for support. But he remained silent. His mother had poisoned his mind, and now he was ready to let her go. Naomi packed her things in silence. There were no goodbyes, no explanations. She left the home she had built with Emeka, her heart heavy with pain and betrayal. As she walked away, she wondered how her life had come to this, how the love that has once seemed so strong had crumbled beneath the weight of her inability to bear children. For days, Naomi wandered without purpose, unsure of where to go or what to do. She had no family nearby, no close friends to turn to. The loneliness was crushing, and she felt as though she had lost everything. One evening, as Naomi sat alone in a quiet park, reflecting her life and the mistakes she believed she had made, a man approached her. His name was Charles, and he had seen her sitting there for several days, always looking lost and sad. Concerned, he introduced himself and offered her a kind word, something Naomi hadn't heard in weeks. Charles was gentle and understanding. He listened to Naomi as she hesitantly shared her story. She had been silent for so long, bottled up with grief and rejection, that when Charles asked her how she was, she couldn't hold back. Slowly, she opened up about Emeka, her mother-in-law, and the unbearable pain she felt after being thrown out of the house for not being able to have children. Charles was patient, letting her speak without interrupting. His deep, soothing voice comforted Naomi in a way she hadn't experienced in years. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen, felt valued for who she was, not for what she could or couldn't give someone. Weeks turned into months, and Naomi found herself spending more time with Charles. He wasn't just kind, he was also patient, never pressuring her or bringing up the past unless she wanted to talk about it. Slowly, Naomi's heart began to heal. She smiled more often, her laughter became more genuine. The dark cloud of sorrow that had followed her for years began to lift. One afternoon, as they sat by the riverbank, watching the sun dip low in the sky, Charles turned to Naomi and spoke softly. "Naomi, I have watched you blossom over these months. You are strong, kind, and resilient. I have come to care deeply for you, more than I ever thought I would. I know you have been through so much, but I would be honored if you would consider building a future with me." Naomi's heart raced. She hadn't expected this. After everything she had gone through, she never thought she would find love again. But here was Charles, a man who saw her as more than her past, more than her pain. He loved her for who she was. With a shaky breath, Naomi responded, "Charles, I care for you too. You have been my rock, my friend, and I can't imagine my life without you." Their love story blossomed from there. Naomi and Charles married in a simple but beautiful ceremony, surrounded by a few close friends. It wasn't extravagant, but it was filled with love, genuine love that Naomi had longed for her whole life. Despite her past, Naomi had accepted that motherhood might never be in her future. A year into her marriage with Charles, Naomi began feeling strange. At first, she thought it was nothing, just a little fatigue from her daily activities. But when the symptoms persisted, Charles suggested they visit a doctor. Sitting in the clinic, Naomi's heart pounded as the doctor examined her. She wasn't prepared for what was about to happen. After a few moments, the doctor smiled warmly and said, "Naomi, you are pregnant." Naomi's world stopped. Pregnant? How was that possible? After all the years of trying and failing, after being told that her chances of having a child were nearly impossible, she had finally conceived. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she looked at Charles, who was equally stunned. They embraced, overwhelmed with happiness. Naomi's dream was finally coming true. She was going to be a mother. The months that followed were filled with excitement and anticipation. Naomi's pregnancy was not easy. Her age and her past health issues made it a risky one. But with Charles by her side, she faced every challenge with courage. They prepared for the arrival of their baby, decorating a nursery and attending doctor's appointments together. But as the months passed, there was another surprise waiting for them. During one of her ultrasound appointments, the doctor looked up with wide eyes. "Naomi, I don't know how to tell you this, but you are not just having one baby, you are having triplets." Naomi gasped. Triplets? It seemed like a dream. After years of heartache and despair, not only was she going to be a mother, but she was going to have 3 daughters. The miracle was almost too much to comprehend. As Naomi and Charles prepared for the arrival of their 3 little girls, their joy was uncontainable. When the day finally came, Naomi gave birth to 3 healthy, beautiful baby girls. They named them Ada, Amara, and Chika, each child representing a part of Naomi's long and arduous journey. Meanwhile, life for Emeka was not going as smoothly. After Naomi left, Emeka had initially enjoyed the excitement of being with Mide. His mother was pleased, and it seemed as though everything was falling into place. But it didn't take long for Mide's true colors to show. Mide was not the kind, obedient woman Emeka's mother had promised she would be. She was manipulative, greedy, and only interested in what she could get from Emeka. She constantly demanded gifts, luxury items, and money, At first, Emeka indulged her, thinking it was the price of keeping her happy. But as the months passed, Mide's demands grew more unreasonable. Emeka's bank accounts began to dwindle. Mide had convinced him to give her access to his credit cards, and before long, she had drained them dry. She spent lavishly on clothes, jewelry, and trips, while Emeka's financial situation grew worse and worse. His once thriving business began to suffer as well, and soon he found himself on the brink of bankruptcy. His mother, who had once championed Mide as the perfect solution to their family's problems, now found herself at odds with her. The two women fought constantly, each blaming the other for the mounting tension in the household. Emeka, caught in the middle, felt his world crumbling around him. One day, Emeka came home to find that Mide had left. She had taken the last of his money and disappeared without a trace. His heart sank. He had been so blinded by his desire for children, by his mother's influence, that he had allowed his life to spiral out of control. In the months that followed, Emeka's situation only worsened. His business collapsed entirely, and he was left with nothing. He turned to his mother, blaming her for pushing Naomi out of his life and bringing Mide into it. The once close bond between mother and son had shattered, leaving only bitterness and regret. Realizing how much he had lost, Emeka decided to find Naomi and beg for her forgiveness. He knew it was a long shot, but he couldn't live with the guilt any longer. His mother, too, acknowledged her mistakes and accompanied him, hoping that Naomi would show him mercy. They tracked Naomi down to the small but beautiful house she shared with Charles. When they arrived, Emeka was shocked to see how happy Naomi looked. She was playing with her 3 little girls in the front yard, their laughter filling the air. Charles stood beside her, beaming with pride and love. Emeka's heart ached. He had never seen Naomi look so content, so at peace. Gathering his courage, Emeka approached her. "Naomi," he began, his voice trembling with regret. I came to apologize. I made a terrible mistake. I let my mother's words poison my mind. I should never have let you go." Naomi turned to him, her face calm but resolute. "Emeka, I have forgiven you a long time ago," she said softly. "But that chapter of my life is over. I have found happiness and I have moved on." Tears welled up in Emeka's eyes, his mother standing behind him. She also spoke up. "Naomi, please forgive me," she pleaded. "I was wrong. I let my desire for grandchildren blind me. I can see now that I destroyed what was precious." But Naomi simply shook her head. "Forgiveness is one thing," she replied, "but going back is another. I have built a new life and I am happy. You will always be a part of my past, but my future belongs to Charles and our daughters." Emeka's heart shattered. He realized that he had truly lost Naomi, not just as a wife, but as a part of his life. She was now beyond his reach, happy and fulfilled in a way he could never have given her. As Emeka and his mother left, Naomi turned back to her family, her heart full of gratitude for the life she had now. She had faced unimaginable pain and heartbreak, but in the end, she had found something far greater. A family built on love, resilience, and hope. And that was more than enough.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.